All right, guys. Glad to have you back for another episode of What in the World. My name is William. I'll be your host. Uh, Everybody, whether they want to admit it or not, they flipping through the channels and they run across a television show dealing with a monster. I know the Discovery Channel and other channels like that have made quite a bit of money on the hysteria created by so-called monsters. There's been that camping trip you've been on and you hear something or you think you see something. Look, we've all been there. You might not admit it. I mean, I will. I grew up in the woods and I'm still, I've been startled by something I saw or something I heard that was unexplainable. And the biggest issue is a lot of folks won't come forward. Now, our guest tonight is a gentleman named Jay Bachochin. He is from the far north, the Wisconsin area. His favorite hunting ground is the Kettle Moran, which is we'll talk about it. It's an interesting place. His monster of choice that he seeks out is we know him by a few names: Sasquatch, Bigfoot. There are other areas that they call him Yeti, and he's not too far. There was a show that I saw just a few weeks ago on some type of replay. There's supposedly a so-called wolf man pretty close to his area, an area called Bray Road. He's called the Monster of Bray Road, or the Beast of Bray Road, I think is what they actually refer to him. Don't know if he's had a run-in with the Beast, but we might talk about that also. Before we get started tonight and I bring him on the show, I do want to give a quick shout-out to one of our 2024 show partners. It's The Deck Restaurant. It's a local fast food restaurant here in my Columbia, Mississippi area. They're at 1111 North Main Street. Go by and check them out. Tell them we sent them. We sent you to them. And let's get started. We got a lot to talk about tonight. So with no further ado, I'm bringing on the expert, Jay Bachochin. I didn't have to practice this time like I did the last time. I talked to him back a couple of years ago, and I practiced for like 2 weeks to make sure I got his name right.
Good evening there, William.
Hey, he thought it was so funny. He even sent me an audio clip to make sure I got it right. I still have that audio clip, as a matter of fact.
Well, people hack it all the time, but it's okay. I always say, don't call me anything you want. Just don't call me late for dinner.
That is true. You and I do agree on that. As long as I don't miss the dinner bell, everything is good.
That's right.
Jay, I don't know how much of the intro, I don't know if you're muted, and I don't know how much of the intro that you caught. I was just giving a heads up to everybody about what we're going to talk about tonight. I didn't even throw in the element of aliens. We might even discuss aliens. There's a very strange story about you that could involve some alien involvement.
That is true.
Not like an abduction or a probe or anything, but something on that line. So where do we want to start tonight? Do we want to, first of all, I just want of our viewers, I'm so glad that we're on video, because the last time I talked to this guy and we put out an episode, it was audio. And of course, he has the perfect audio voice. He sounds like he should be a radio DJ somewhere, but nobody could actually see him except for some photos that I'd shared in the promotional part. This guy does not look like he has aged maybe 2 weeks since the last time that he and I talked any length of time. And he's not a young guy, but he just looks young. And I guess by saying all that, I guess I need to lead into the story. You and your family actually inspired the concept for the movie Cocoon. I mean, we don't know that for a fact, but I really believe that somebody saw or heard your story, and I think Ron Howard stole it. I mean, I'm just putting that out there. So exactly, I'll tell you what, before we jump into Bigfoot stuff, share a little bit about that story, because that was an amazing side story that just blew my doors off. So won't you share that?
Which one? The
one where you don't age because of you had a visitation, I believe would be the best way to describe it.
I don't know. It's like Benjamin Buttons. I don't know. There are a lot of photos of me. Actually, my kids were just looking at my senior high school picture, and I looked older than I do now, which is very strange. I mean, besides the grays, popping in there, waiting for them to go, up top.
I told you, three gray hairs. That's all I saw.
I'll be 57 this year.
57.
How
I'm
about
younger
that?
than him, and I look like I'm 112.
I don't know what the secret is. I wish I could share it with the world. Sometimes my wife will say maybe I am part alien. Yeah, it's possible.
It is
You know,
possible.
you never know. You never know. I don't know. I think it's just loving God, being positive every day,
Mhm.
trying to be positive every day,
Mhm.
and just trying to live life to its fullest, no matter what it brings.
I get in this world we live in. That is an alien. That's an actual alien concept right there. So
Right there. So again, I wish I could share my secret. There's no Men in Black standing next to me to make me say that, but it's true. I I don't know what it would be, and I'm grateful for it. Hey, you know what? By the time I'm 60, I could just go all white. We don't know. Let's see in 3 years.
yeah, let's see. Let's see. I don't. I
Yeah.
won't wait 3 years to get back in touch with you, but
All
we'll
right.
see.
Yeah. We'll
All
watch
right.
the progress.
So here's the deal. Here's the deal. You would be considered an expert in the field of
Yeah.
Bigfoot slash Sasquatch, whatever other name they go by. I don't even know the Indians. I know Indians in certain regions call them by a different name. Also, you're an expert in the exploration or the yeah, I'd be exploration because you guys are always exploring, trying to find them.
Right, with the discovery, but I mean, honestly, and this is gonna be a cliche, there is no expert in this field. There are researchers out there that do things a lot differently than I do,
Mhm.
even with either higher tech equipment, more scientific background, um, more of the surroundings than I do. Because I always say I didn't grow up in Outback Jack. I didn't grow up tracking animals and learning the ways of the woods that way. That's just been the past 10 years, and I'm always learning when I'm going out there. Um, so therefore, I never and I do. I've heard that I've seen them pop that under my name on the Travel Channel, the paranormal or supernatural expert, and it's kind of like, there's not, and there's really not. And I'm giving kudos to every single person who goes out and does exactly what I do, just in a different part of the world or the country. And but you're right. I do get out there, and I'm always trying to discover something. It's never when I go out there, this is going to be the day that I have a Bigfoot encounter. It's going out there and, you know what? I've been out here for 10 years. I've never heard that bird before ever, which is weird because I'm out there a lot and I just heard it now. But that's it. It's all about discovery for me.
So when did this whole exploration for Bigfoot? Where did that even start? I mean, I know it spawned two different documentaries that you've produced, but like, what sparked? Were you on a camping trip one night and
No, not at all. After my ghost hunting days, I started in 2007 investigating houses and different places that deemed paranormal,
Mhm.
and that kind of sloughed off a little bit because it got oversaturated. And I'm like, you know what? We got Bray Road right in our backyard. I actually friended the late Linda Godfrey back in 2011, and just talking with her and learning about her. So I was studying more of Bray Road, the beast of Bray Road. Bigfoot, I'm going to tell you right now, never on my radar. I've heard of it. I've seen Harry and the Hendersons. I've seen the Patterson Gimlin film my dad took me to, the Mysterious Monsters movie back in the 70s. And I still thought it's a guy in a suit. With this many people in pursuit of Bigfoot, they would have more than just casts. They would have they would have to have some. We would have to catch up to it soon. And so Bigfoot was never on my radar. So after one night in 2013 in October, after patrolling, because you can't secretly get out and investigate Bray Road because it's all private farmland and you got to respect that, but it is a public road. So after patrolling, we kind of just kept driving, and it was, I think it was closer to 9:30 at night, but it was in October, so it was dark. We ended up in the Kettle Moraine. I found a place to pull off. And I'm like, all right, guys, well, there's four of us. What can go wrong? And just walking out there, I had my cheap, crappy uh, digital camcorder with real bad mic on it and everything, but it had IR on it. So I'm out there, just like ghost hunters or finding Bigfoot. And we're looking for the Beast of Bray Road. And that's when I heard it. whatever sound I heard and I captured, and that's in my first documentary, it is something I've never heard. Again, I always say I'm not an Outback Jack, and I don't like to jump to conclusions, but this thing sounded part man, part simian, part ape. And it was a really weird recording. And we were able to capture that. And the three of us, everybody in the same room is going to hear something different. But we all knew that it wasn't an owl, it wasn't a deer, it wasn't, but it didn't matter. We were able to go back and get on the Wisconsin animal soundboard for daytime, any indigenous animals in southeast Wisconsin, and we could never find a match. And that right there is what triggered me of going, well, what is it? I hunt the truth. I'd like to know what it is. I don't think Bigfoot exists, but that did not sound like a werewolf. It sounded more like an ape. And that's what got me going from that point on.
So, so you actually were in search of the beast of Bray Road, just strolling around, hoping that a werewolf ran out in front of your car,
Yeah.
and you stumbled across something that launched you on this journey. Now, how
Yeah.
insane is
Yeah.
that?
That got us back out a couple times the rest of that 2013. And again, really nothing else from that point until one afternoon in February. This is the following year after October, that our kids, when they were young, they were being babysat, and we had a full Saturday. And my wife goes, "Do you want to go hiking?" And it was snowing and everything. And I'm like, "You don't have to twist my arm. I know where we can hike." I went back to where we heard the howl, and I mean, it was snowing really bad that day, and there was just drifts of snow. We were the first ones in. I knew where the trails were, and my wife was leading. But when you're not lifting your legs, you're just leaving, this big trail through a foot and a half of snow.
Mhm.
And she continues on, and I'm still looking around though, and because this is where I heard it, but it's during the day, so you know. And next thing you know, she gets a little bit more ahead of me and over a hill, so about 50 yards from me. And as I'm coming through her tracks, I see these two huge divots on each side of her track. And as I'm walking up, I'm thinking a rabbit maybe jumped, um, maybe a deer coming down the kettle because it was kind of on a slope. And the closer I got, and the more I got over it, it resembled like a human foot, but huge. And I noticed the way it just went over my wife's track. And then all of a sudden I look to the right and I see another. And then I can see another. And they were like in this tightrope fashion, which again, I was still learning about Bigfoot at the time. So I really had no idea. I'm just like, wait a minute, I hunt the truth. So I document it. And that's again in my first documentary. And that there, the tracks being 17 and a half inches, this was not melt away. It was still snowing. The only way you could have pulled this off is have somebody on a little pulley, tried to each tree, doing a Mission Impossible, putting a stencil down and doing it. No trees broken, no branch, nothing broken. Everything was stepped over. It was bizarre. So it was like at that point, I thought maybe there is something to this Bigfoot thing.
Okay, never found a body. So Bigfoot, until a body's found, there'll never be definitive evidence. I I've always heard on a lot of shows that I've watched associated with this topic is, well, the reason you can't find it is because of the, here's a college word for you, topography of the area for which they're supposed to be most prevalent. So explain to us the kettle moraine. What's the topography of the kettle moraine?
Yeah, it's 55,000 square acres in southeast Wisconsin, starts near southeast Wisconsin. It goes up 100 miles to the state of Wisconsin. So you have a southern unit and a northern unit before you hit the great North Woods, upper north in Wisconsin. And honestly, if you Google that and you just look at the Kettle Moraine, you are looking at, wait, what? It's actually where my wife is right now. Could Bigfoot be could Bigfoot exist? Yes, but not here in Wisconsin. No way. They'd be more on the Pacific Northeast or, anywhere on the East Coast, anywhere where there's more mountains and trees. But I'll tell you, once you get in the kettle moraine, you can get turned around. I've heard plenty of times where people are just kind of turned around and getting lost, and you're having the rangers going out there to get you. But it's basically the kettle was created by uh, during the ice age with the glaciers retracting, which created the Great Lakes. So therefore, you have within the kettle moraine, you have not only standing pines everywhere and oaks, you have rolling kettles. I always call them inverted mountains because Wisconsin's not known for mountains, but when you get to the kettle, they're really deep depressions. Not like a fall off or anything like that, but some are 200 feet, 300 feet, 100 feet, and they just kind of roll. And within that, you have uh, your ponds, your lakes, anything that would support an habitat for it, all of nature, all of the wild animals that are out there, and definitely a place where I would think nobody would come out here. I mean, they would hike, ski, they all stay on trails. What about the rest of the kettle? What's in there? So it's definitely houses a lot. We just research a pin drop of it compared to it.
Okay, so have you, in all your research and your exploration, have you checked out the different hotspots all over the U.S. to see the similarities between where you actually research a lot and then all these other locations, like the Pacific Northwest, for example? Um,
Yeah,
I've heard of a spike in like Ohio and places like that that I would have never expected it. So
yeah.
yeah,
People say that even more about Wisconsin than Ohio. Ohio's like what? And then you're looking at it, and a lot of it does have to do basically with that type of habitat, whether it's rolling kettles, bigger hills, or mountains. But I've never actually explored any of those. Of course, I hear them on the wire or from other researchers out there of sightings and everything else like that. But honestly, at this point, doing this 10 years, I've just been focusing on my one area. And it's the one area that, people in Ohio or Pacific Northwest aren't looking. They're doing their thing. I'm doing mine because I don't have all my answers here yet. So again, I'm still I always say I'm still a student doing this, no matter what. No matter what people say, I get out there, I feel like a student, and that's good because I always want to learn.
okay, so we briefly mentioned this earlier. So I didn't. You have two documentaries associated with your searches. Now, that is Finding J, and I'm assuming you went out on a limb with Finding J two. Didn't want to confuse anybody. You want to keep it. Or actually, I'm
Wow.
assuming what is Finding J? Finding J. What is it? Finding
Well,
J, Hunting the Truth, and then the other one is
the first one is just called Finding Jay.
right.
And actually, it was always a play on words on my first 5 years of going out there, is that I thought, you know what, and I mean researchers or people who are interested, I don't think are ever going to find Bigfoot, no matter what we do, no matter where we go out there, no matter how quiet we are, no matter how loud we are, how many lights we put up or instruments we play, to be able to see them. But I do think Bigfoot will find us. So it could be called Finding William or Finding Jay,
Right.
Finding Katie. So Finding Jay is kind of a play on words from a Bigfoot point of view, but it does have two meanings into it because it's my first 5 years. In early on, I would never call it Bigfoot or Sasquatch. I mean, come on, Bigfoot is the butt end of a joke. You don't
Right.
say that. You might as well say unicorns or fairies or and I'm not knocking that now because I'm thinking, what's real out there? If Bigfoot's real and we're always taught that it was folklore or a legend, what about unicorns? That sounds crazy. Actually, my wife said, yeah, she has enough with the Bigfoot thing. If I say I'm going to go out and look for unicorns, she's no. Just joking. She supports me in everything I do. But that's pretty much what I did in the first film. Is I tried not to uh, mention or throw any type of evidence that I've come across. I call trace evidence that Bigfoot made that, because I didn't see Bigfoot make that.
Right.
I try to debunk what I see, those footprints, and I'm like, and I've showed this to so many people. Nobody can really figure it out. They're authentic. They're authentic photos. But again, what made them? Were they made prior to us getting there? My wife just walked past them. Was my wife just a little bit ahead of me, and it walked and made these divots, and I didn't even see it? I think about those things where I'm just like, what could it have been?
Does the entire family, are they now part of the exploration team?
Yeah, I mean, they are. I always, getting my kids out when they were younger was a lot easier because they had no choice.
Right.
Now they're all teenagers and,
Yeah.
well,
Well,
almost a teenager, and it's
and
like,
they know everything. They
yeah,
already know.
it's
They
like,
know
come on.
Bigfoot's an alien. I don't know why you keep looking for him. So
Yeah, well, no, I always say, hey, when we were younger, because when Grandpa was younger, we didn't have computers and cell
right.
phones and all that. We went out to go one-on-one with people, to
Right.
meet our friends and everything. But here, that I understand it, that's their social life, but it's like, hey, let's pull you aside. And when I do, they love it. So there's still Team Bigfoot with Dad, but it's just not as much as it used to be. But that's okay. They got to choose their path too.
Hey, you said your first documentary covered 5 years. How long did it? How much time passed before the second one was produced?
Well, the second one I produced in 2022. And I didn't include some of my 2018 footage or anything that I've come across, because you got to kind of cut the limit. Even though I was producing and editing a movie, I was still going out researching, so I'd have even newer stuff. But I didn't want to just throw that in because I kind of had a story to tell first. So it was about 4 years, maybe, yeah, about 4 years before the second one came out. And again, my wife said, all right, because it takes a lot of time. I'm a one-man band.
Yeah.
And when you're working full-time and you're trying to be dad and you're trying to do all this stuff, when I start getting involved in editing and I kind of have my timeline, it keeps me away. I don't want to say from the family, but it's like I spend more time doing this. So it's tough. It's tough. And so she said, you're not thinking about a third one, are you? And I said, well, she goes, no, at least wait 12 months, just let this go. And I'm like, that's fine. When I want to put something out, I put it out for the quality, not the quantity. Right away after the second one came out, people are like, are you going to be working on a third one soon? And it's like, well, I really don't operate that way. The first one, honestly, was for me to tell my story, show you what I've captured. It turned out to be a 2-hour documentary. It was actually closer to Avengers Endgame originally, over 3 hours. And I'm whittling it down because people are like, you're not gonna be able to get this into the documentary festivals and everything. And I'm like, but
Right.
I don't want that. I just want to tell my story.
Right.
And that was it. And then part two was because I didn't talk about the lights that I was experiencing the first 5 years too. So that's what part two has a lot to do with.
That's some paranormal effect there that you didn't want to talk about because you'd moved on from paranormal. You're working on Bigfoot right now.
I was working on Bigfoot.
Working on Bigfoot. We don't even have. We'll have to do a whole different show about how you used to scavenger the what was it, haunted houses and of course the Beast of Bray Road. I'm glad you threw that thing down too. Let's work on something. Let's stay focused.
Exactly.
Right. So 2 documentaries, nearly 10 years. You admitted at the very beginning that you were the biggest skeptic of the Sasquatch ever. Now,
Right.
how much? Let's see. That's just 10 years of documented. How long since that first decision? How much time has passed? The night you heard the howl. From that point on, what is that? What's the timeline?
Yeah. So after I heard the howl, it still intrigued me, but I still wasn't a believer.
Mm-hmm.
When I came across those footprints in February, I was like, okay, and I was still researching and digging down with it. But it wasn't until that September, which again is in my documentary, same exact area that I heard the howl, that I found the prints, and me and Sanjay were out hiking in September afternoon. And as we're walking, we're hearing what sounds like acorns falling. from the tree. And actually, Sanjay said, "Aren't those acorns?" And I'm just like, "Yeah, I mean, probably. At least that's what I was thinking." Because I'm like, it sounds, you hear that, but all of a sudden I started hearing something different. I wasn't hearing him come down vertical. I heard him going through trees, hitting the leaves, landing by our feet. And we were actually on some kettlestone on the path. And when this object hit the kettlestone path, it sounded like rock on rock. So without really seeing it and identifying it, it sounded like a rock was thrown out of the kettle. This happened and followed us about another 500 yards. Again, I was telling you about the kettle. The kettle itself, I don't care unless your Navy SEAL would not be able to go through that terrain that was not part of the path without making a sound. And next thing you know, they're still coming at us. And we're like, what's going on? And they stopped for a couple minutes. And I'm like, well, this is BS. I said other words. I found a big rock where I was standing on, nice size rock. I throw it back into the woods where the rocks were coming from. And I couldn't hit the side of a barn, but I'll tell you, I hit a tree smack dab in the middle and made a nice loud pop. And just as I said that, Sanjay's like, wow, that was a great throw. And I'm like, yeah, watch, they're going to throw it at me because I threw that rock. Before I could be done saying that, a barrage of rocks come from a distance, the trajectory just whipped through the woods. And again, I'm filming this the whole time. And they come and they land by my feet. And again, I'm holding the camcorder like this, but I'm not viewing it. I'm just recording what I'm seeing. And so when the rocks hit, I actually saw the rocks by my feet go and spread. They were, I don't want to say pebble size, they're nice size. And at that point, for a long answer, I thought scream or vocals, big footprints. Now we're having stones thrown at us, throughout our path. I'm like, it's too many stories I've heard about Bigfoot that way. I said, I think it's got to be. I still kept my feet on the ground though. I'll tell you that right now. I still didn't say, yeah, that was Bigfoot. I'd say in my heart of hearts, I'm like, yeah, that's Bigfoot, but I really didn't admit it at the time. So you're probably thinking, I don't know, 8 months, 9 months before I came to the conclusion that's what was out there.
So after all this time, big
Yes.
time skeptic, you don't go out now to disprove, you go out to prove.
Yeah, and again, that would be for me. When I first started going out there, I had this all-in-one rig that had my big flashlight, my uh, thermal flare, I had a smaller cam on it, and all this stuff. And I'm walking around in the woods, going, "Why can't we find Bigfoot?" I'm scaring the crap out of anything that's in front of me. And somebody did tell me, and I give a lot of kudos. His name is Mitchell Townsend. He's out in Mount St. Helens, who contacted me, and he became kind of a teacher. And he goes, Jay, what are you going out there for? Are you trying to go out there to prove the existence of Bigfoot because you know what's out there, or what are you trying to do? And I'm like, well, I'm just trying to, yeah, I guess, kind of. And he's like, lose the equipment. If you're going to bring an audio recorder or something, conceal it. Go out there, be one with the nature, and discover it that way. And at that point, I'm like, I think that was right around 2015, where I put it aside. I'm like, I'm out here for my validation, maybe to show some evidence to my wife so she knows I'm not that crazy. Um, and that's about it. And then like-minded people like you that invite me onto a podcast. Would love
That's
to
right.
show and
You
share
talk
that.
about Bigfoot or
Yeah,
paranormal or alien, whatever. Just
absolutely.
whatever. Because
Yeah.
you're an expert in all of them. So
Yeah.
all right. So the question I gotta ask it. I have to ask it. We talked about this before we started. The reason Bigfoot cannot be found or we don't stumble across, you said Bigfoot finds us. We don't find it.
Hmm.
The reason we can't find it is simple because he is an alien.
Yeah, and a lot of people come with that conclusion. If you see my second documentary, I always say there's four camps in the Bigfoot world, and one of them is flesh and blood. That's it, primate that's out there that we haven't caught up with. That's one. Number two is the woo, like woo, Bigfoot's paranormal, and it can cloak and and do all these other fancy things. The third camp is extraterrestrial, but there is a fourth camp which is biblical, the Nephilim. And with that being said, I have no idea. If you could ask me what my opinion is, I'll give you my opinion, but I really don't know what Bigfoot actually is. But with the things I've seen, uh, the things I've experienced, I can only believe it to be something that could be considered more on the supernatural, not the paranormal, something supernatural that we can understand. You know, when we first saw the octopus being able to change its color into a rock in its form, we didn't know that would have been like magic.
Yeah.
Oh, the octopus is magic until you studied it. Um, I believe the same thing with Bigfoot. I believe that it's out there. I believe it can just blend in with its environments. I also believe it is flesh and blood. I'm not saying it's a spirit ghost because it does leave footprints, it does break limbs,
Mhm.
it does vocalize. You can see it, and it doesn't look like a ghost or anything like that. It's solid. So it's like it is flesh and blood and it's there, but it's not there as well. And that's gets to be the crazy part because people say, well, what do you think of the alien theory on that? Well, you tell me what your definition of alien is. Is it something from Pluto or Jupiter that's over here? Or are we talking about something that doesn't belong in this existence of ours? And I don't know if you remember the TV show Sliders, where there's just multiple Earths. Gordon, you're going to start talking about the multiverse or anything, but is there that possibility that frequencies can open and shut these
Right.
different areas, which would then make Bigfoot extraterrestrial being here from another place? So and again, like I said, I don't know. I like to fancy the idea, and I always tell people, you want my opinion, I'll give you my opinion, and it may differ from yours, and that's fine. You got to find your truth, but there is something definitely I would say supernatural until it's proven otherwise, until I see a portal or something open up and it comes through, or seeing a shit, some sort of orb or something, and it has a beam, and next thing you know, there's Bigfoot after it leaves. Um, Without being able to see any of that, that's kind of just where I stand on the subject.
Be a lot easier to prove if we could just find a body.
Absolutely,
All
and
right. So these last few minutes of the show don't want to. We got to get some updates. I mean,
yes.
you have enough material to do your third one, and it's the Hollywood effect. You got to do three, man. Nobody ever does two. Look at
Well,
Back to the Future, man. Back to the Future. There was three of them.
that's right. Well, the thing about Ghostbusters was only two for the longest time.
Yeah, but
And
that's
I'm
okay.
like,
They have decided to make a little money on that. They are cranking them out now. So
they're cranking them out. Yeah, well, definitely there will be a part three. I haven't released any dates or times or anything like that because come on, I'm still going out there and experiencing the craziest things. Just last year, last March. Oh, let's back up a little bit. This time last year, the end of January, I was out there, and me and my oldest daughter and my 35-year-old nephew, we all took camping chairs and we got out there like 5 in the morning. It's dark in the woods, it's cold. You have your coffee, starts getting light out. You kind of venture away from your little camp. Then it's around 8 o'clock. It's beautiful. And next thing you know, my oldest daughter says, "Did you see that? Something just looked like it jumped from one tree to another." And I go, "What?" And she's trying to explain it. Of course, I'm doing film on it because I'm just like, what is it? And she goes, the only thing that looked like is the back of a gorilla. And it was gray with kind of a black outline. Okay. So long story longer, we're walking down to where she saw it, and we're seeing no prints or anything on the ground because it was in the air. And okay, what I believe you. Next thing you know, she looks ahead of us on the trail in the tree line, just inside the tree line. She goes, "You see it?" And I'm like, "What?" And she's like, "It's right there." So I'm telling her I'm going to give you the video. Don't look at it. Don't blink. Just keep your eye on it. Let's film this. She brings the camera up and she's like, "It's blinking." and I'm looking, I don't see anything but trees, and so all of a sudden my eyes wander closer to the trail and the tree line, and all of a sudden I see what looked like Harry Potter or Frodo in a cloak standing there all of a sudden, whoop, behind a tree, right there, right in front of me, no denying it. And I'm like, that was, whoa, that was beyond crazy. And my nephew, as we were walking down to the tree because I wanted to check it out, he comes up. He was 40 yards to our left, looking in that direction, and he's just kind of, let's find a Bigfoot or an alien or a dog man. I don't want to see a ghost. He goes, I'm going to tell you what I saw, and I don't know what I saw, but whatever it was behind this tree, and it was like shimmery, and it just shot through all the bushes and made no sound or nothing. So I'm like, okay, there's something, don't know what it is. Then we come into this march really quick. During the day, I was out with Bryn up at her property, and it was about 3 o'clock. I'm saying goodbye. We were out there for 3.5 hours. I'm outside the woods. I do my little hand signal. See you guys next to, whoa. I saw it. I saw a Bigfoot during the day. It was about 60 yards out, pitch dark, jet black, and this is during the day with sun. And I saw its head. I saw its shoulders. I couldn't tell if its arm was out. It looked like maybe it was the side of it, but it glided by like a skier just behind 3 or 4 trees. But it didn't continue. I should have been able to see it no matter what it was. It should have continued, but it went through 3 clumps of tree, then it was gone, and I never saw it. And right there, that was the definitive moment for me, not for anybody else. Secondhand story. I'm not trying to convince you what I saw. I'm just telling you what I saw.
Time traveler.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Portal hop. He portal hopped on you. What happened to you?
Yeah. Well,
you're proving he's an alien. Is what you're doing. So.
Well, I mean, at the same time, I've been really trying to get closer and trying to understand a lot of the Native American tribes in this area, or at least in Wisconsin. And I've talked to an elder, and actually he passed shortly after I talked to him. He was, but he gave me a lot of words of wisdom. He's like, you're just looking at the big guy. The woods is so much more. And I'm like, okay, you're talking to somebody who doesn't believe what I believe, or vice versa. But I really wanted to be open and listen to what he thought about, because he said, I'm finding feathers when I go out there, when I go on my hike, single feathers. So what, right? So what? It's the woods. Birds are going to lose their feathers. They're always smack dab in the middle of the path. There's only one, no scuffle, and you can go down 150, 200 yards and find another one in the center. And I've been experiencing that now since 2016, which was not mentioned in my first or second film. So I have a lot more to tell on that. Yeah.
All right. So do we have a rough idea of when the third one's going to come out? Or do you have any other projects you'd like to give a shout out to right now? Or in development on your new show, or how does this work? So
yeah, I mean, as of right now, no, there's I don't have a date yet, and I really don't want to go on the record just saying it, but it won't
put pressure on you.
Yeah. But I mean, it's not only that, but it's just getting it done. Let's just say I have a working title and I have a lot of stuff to go in there. And that's all I got to say. I mean, there's so much more to go, in this journey. And again, like the great Mitchell Townsend said, where I call him Teach, he was just like, just remember, Jay, what we do is not a sprint, it's a marathon. You got to find your balance in life. It's almost what the elder said to me, Elder Skip, before he passed. I told him, I haven't been leaving tobacco as a thank you while these things happen, because that's important to do out there. That's what he told me. And he goes, Jay, this is your sunrise. And, those are the words I'll always cherish. I'll never be able to talk to him again, but I found my sunrise. And it's kind of a cool fact for me, for what I do. So that's where I'm going to keep pushing on.
Brother, I'm once again absolutely amazed. You are a wealth of knowledge when it comes to this subject. I love that you were an absolute staunch critic. You did not skeptic, did not believe at all, and now through a decade and a half of diligence in the kettle,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
finally come around like the rest of us. I,
Well,
I do
that
have one last question before we shut it down, though.
yes.
Just yes or no. I said we're gonna leave it yes or no.
Okay.
The Patterson video. One of the two parties actually came out before he died, allegedly, and disproved. I mean, actually said it was a fake. So, do you believe it was a fake, or do you believe that it's some level of authenticity?
It's real, 100%.
Even
100%.
even though one of the guys present came out and said it wasn't.
Yeah, again, it doesn't when it comes down to these guys, and I wasn't there, but to the squabble of who is going to make the money
Yeah.
to do this. Of course, you're going to get someone to shut it down, but I'll tell you what,
Right.
this video has been reviewed and scrutinized for
Yeah,
over 50 years, and there are things in that video that, even though it looks like a guy in a suit, you know what, you've got to look at a lot of different things in there. But
yeah.
that's where I stand now.
I'm just curious because that's kind of the litmus test when you talk about Bigfoot. That
Yeah.
starts with that video 50 years
Yeah.
ago, which is insane. That was 55 or 56 years ago now.
But that's what I'm saying. Everybody, when they lead off, say, I watched the Patterson Gimlin film. I watched In Search Of, and they're talking about all these things about Bigfoot. And I'm like,
Yeah.
was I living under a rock? I mean,
Right.
I was into UFO and aliens and ghosts, or even werewolves, Loch Ness Monster, Bigfoot. No.
We're going to have you back on, and we're not going to talk about Bigfoot. I want to have you back on in the future, and let's talk about all your paranormal investigations and your Beast of Bray Road and all that kind of stuff. What I can't remember the name of the show at the Discovery Channel or Travel Channel or something had something about hidden monsters or something like that. I don't remember.
In Search Of Monsters?
In Search Of, and it was all Monsters Edition. That's what it was. That was, dude. I'm telling you, I don't care if you believe it or not. The way those were produced, it scared the bejesus out of you. So you thought you were going to walk to the kitchen and see a werewolf staring in the window. So
I know, right? It's crazy.
Brother, I can't thank you enough. Bigfoot expert. You have to get a Bigfoot expert on every now and then just to keep us in the loop. So I will anxiously await number 3.
Okay.
We don't have a time on it yet. We don't want to put the pressure on him. His wife don't want some pressure. So can't, like I said, can't thank you enough for being on, brother. And we'll talk at you later, my man.
All right. Thanks for having me on. You guys have a good night.
You too, brother. And that's going to be it for tonight, folks. Hope you enjoyed the content. Of course, if you did, please like, share, and subscribe. Click on notifications so you'll get more content.